I've gotten a lot of feedback regarding my video Black Men Stop Whining About Media and Build Your Own. And reviewing the comments, it's become very clear that a lot of you brothers just don't get it. I saw a lot of comments on here, and the ones that got my attention the most were the people who were trying to say that, well, there are projects out there that are being made by black men that are just being overlooked. And I'm just going to go into this real brief. I don't have a whole lot of time to do a regular video like I would be, which is why I'm just putting together this brief commentary. The bottom line is pretty much all the stuff that you guys were suggesting sucks. Let's just be blatant, out front, and honest about it. Most of this stuff that you guys are pretending to yourselves is actually on par, is sub-mediocre. Let's just be straight up front about it. The only place that is good stuff is in your mind. There's nothing great about it. There's something called a standard, brothers. It's called a standard. And you need to understand what a standard is. Because a standard is not what you define it as. A standard is by what the industry and the audience defines it as. There used to be a time that what we called standard definition on television. 20 years ago, that was it. And even when high def started coming in, standard definition was still okay. Today, it is simply unacceptable for you to come to the industry or to your audience with standard definition. If it's not high def, you wasted your time and you're wasting ours even coming up to us. That's called a standard. When you say that you are going to put together a production that is going to be presented to the general public for consumption, you need to take a look at the standard. Well, what is the standard? Turn on your TV. Go to YouTube and go check out the videos that were made by production companies that got a few million views on them. And go see what the standard looks like. Because if your stuff doesn't at least look 90% like that, I mean look and sound, and is edited 90% like that, you're not meeting the standard. And if you can't do that, you are wasting everyone's time presenting it to us. You're wasting your time, you're wasting the industry's time, and you're wasting your potential audience's time. So let's just get that very, very clear right now. Most of this stuff that you guys were trying to suggest and we're trying to present and we're trying to say, hey, this is out there, this person's working on this and that, please, please. I'm going to do something here that's going to offend a lot of people, but you all need an honest-to-God, serious wake-up call. I made the video and I made it very, very clear that all this hood stuff and this bottom feeder stuff that is devoid of production value and completely and totally absentee as far as a great script and great dialogue and a great concept is unacceptable. And what was the first thing that was presented to me and to my listeners? People suggesting more subpar, sub-mediocre, unacceptable, bottom of the barrel, fifth rate, not third rate, fifth rate mess. Some folks jumped up and said, black and sexy TV. For real? I mean, that to you qualifies? Probably doesn't. I mean, it was probably from either the people who made it or some person who knows the people who made it and thinks that, you know, well, after all this time, we're going to dredge this up from the bottom of the barrel and we will turn this into something interesting. You know, maybe the problem is that not enough people know about what we're doing. No, the problem isn't that people don't know, not enough people know about what you're doing. The reason that not enough people know about what you're doing is because people saw it and didn't like it. They saw your stuff and it stinks. Why do you have to say it with such venom in your voice? Okay, that's fine. Do your numbers make you feel any better about it? Your stuff stinks. It's garbage. And that's why nobody watches it. That's why you don't have any views on it. Because your stuff is no good. You did some things correctly, but that was far outweighed and torpedoed by all the things you didn't do correctly. Your camera work was okay, and I'm not even going to say good. It was all right, sophomoric in some areas. Now, the bottom of the barrel is somebody with a webcam on YouTube. That's the bottom of the barrel. And what we see is that on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being YouTube webcam quality and 10 being indie film production quality, you guys are somewhere around a 5. The problem is that you need to be at least a 7 or 8 to gain an audience and to retain them. And clearly you guys were willing to investigate a camera. This is the intellectual laziness that pervades among black males. They always are half doing stuff. And in this case, only quarter doing it. Which is most of you are only quarter doing it. And a lot of you even less than a quarter. You know that you need a camera to make a video. So you go off and go try to see if you can get the best camera that you can. But you don't learn how to use your camera properly. You don't learn how to outfit it with proper lenses. And you don't learn how to process your video. And you don't go try to find someone who can do it for you. And so the product and the content that you wind up releasing is nothing to write home about. But you're breaking your arm patting yourselves on the back. And then upset and saying black people just don't want to support quality media. Black people will support quality media. The problem is you ain't got none. That's why you feel like they don't support it, because you're presenting something to people and it's not quality. And nobody has been honest enough and candid enough with you to tell you the blatant, brutal, and honest truth about what you're doing. Your stuff stinks. Remember that I said there were several things that you needed to make sure you were good at. Did you all notice the things that I listed? I said you needed a camera, and that was all these people were concerned about. Well, I bought a camera. Then I immediately right after that said you need lighting. Well, these people are sitting up here just using the lighting in the room. And then you have to sit there and tinker and start messing with the settings on your camera to compensate for your inadequate light. And this is why your whites are all blown out, or your darks are overloading the screen, because you are not using a light to spot your subjects so that you can leave the camera at even exposure. And so it's destroying your production quality, because you didn't think you needed to learn about anything more than just the camera. If you're going to go into a business, you need to know everything about that business and about that industry from top to bottom. You need to learn everything you can. Oh, wait a minute. Remember what I said before? Negroes don't like reading. There's a language barrier. Yeah, we put up barriers to anything involving language. We're allergic to reading. Catatonic to learning. And terrified to excel. So you figure if you bought a camera, you've done your due diligence. Did you all notice that right after the camera, I said you need microphones? Did you notice right after that I said that? Well, guess what else was missing? You see, you all took enough time to get a camera and nothing else. And then can't figure out why people are not taking you or your project seriously. This is pervasive and all too common among black males. You're coming to the marketplace with a substandard product. I'm going to say something that's going to hurt your feelings, and damn your feelings. What you need to go do is go watch Issa Rae and Awkward Black Girl and go see how a small independent indie production is supposed to be put together. You need to go watch Ask a Slave, which is directed by a black man. You need to go watch that series and go see how a small indie production that is doing it the right way and was able to gain enough funds through their crowdfunding, go see how it's done. Go see what a production looks like when it's an indie production that's done right. Go and learn a few things. Somebody else jumped up. I don't know what their problem is. Somebody else fell out of the rafters suggesting something Children of Willie Lynch. This was so laughable that they should have been insulted to even mention this. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know if they were thinking. I do know it was ridiculous. But this is what they suggested. I do know it was ridiculous. Somebody else jumped up again and wanted to suggest somebody's project called CV Nation. Now, CV Nation doesn't have a lot of views. Now, they posted their stuff back in 2012, and by what I mean by not a lot of views is that they have less than 1,000 per episode. Less than 1,000, not even 1,000. Less for the videos that I saw. Brothers and sisters, I post up on YouTube every once in a while, and I get 1,000 views in a day. More than that if I'm really pushing getting people to spread a video around. So for these guys to have done what they did and they can't even get 1,000 views on their video, that should be a wake-up call telling you something about your product. That should be a wake-up call alerting you that there is a problem. And the problem isn't that the audience doesn't like good material. The problem is your material ain't so good. And you need to be accepting that reality. Your audience is not obligated to buy just because you are selling. You are obligated to coerce and entice and provide your audience with a product that they wish to buy. That is your obligation. The audience has no obligation except if they want to see it, they need to pay for it. That's their obligation. If they fulfill that obligation, they have upheld their end of the bargain. In this case here, you fellas are giving this stuff out for free and people are not watching it. Now, in CV Nation's defense, these guys got some of what they were supposed to do on the ball. They had their camera work on a scale of 1 to 10. I'll give it a 7. They didn't have a lot of adequate lighting, although it looks like they did have some. Their sound work needs medical attention. Their story work needs a Ouija board. I was doing you a charity just by watching the first minute of your stuff. I was doing you a tremendous public service. Stuff's no good. Even for a first effort, you should have known better than to do this. And what I'm saying is that if you're going to do something like this, don't attach your name to it. You destroyed your brand first time out of the gate. Because you were obviously trying to do something that in your minds competed with superheroes from NBC, that TV show, and you didn't actually get an honest assessment of what your stuff is or what your stuff is doing or how other people feel about it. You never got an honest assessment of that. Black men are so emotionally hypersensitive that they are worse than Republicans. Black men only want other men around them who are not going to truthfully evaluate what they're saying in a logical way, not somebody who's whining and complaining. Did you notice I'm not whining and complaining about your stuff. I'm telling you what's wrong with it and why I'm not going to buy it. Has nothing to do with your message was offensive. I don't care. You could have had any type of content out there. You could have been putting up videos that were pulling the whiskers off kittens. That was not going to bother me. What bothers me is that simply from an artistic standpoint, I didn't like it. I'm not a big fan of Henry Louis Gates, but his latest documentary that he had put together, Across Many Rivers, on a scale of 1 to 10, I gotta give that a 9. For production value and storytelling, I give that a 9. And I'm not a fan of Skip Gates, but as far as that production is concerned, him and his people did everything they were supposed to do. That was everything a documentary is supposed to be. He did his work. It was everything a documentary was supposed to be, and it was everything that a professional production was supposed to be. Remember, just because your production is an independent does not mean that we absolve you from putting together a professional product. If you are presenting it to the public, this is your profession. And if this is supposed to represent your profession, you are supposed to represent your profession well. And you guys are representing the profession that you want to be in raggedy and sloppy. And that's why you don't have the views. Now let me go over this with you all one more time here so I can make this point very, very plain. If you guys are going to talk about releasing a production, making a production, I want to put together my own independent whatever, go watch Hidden Colors and take a look at Tariq Nasheed's work, particularly Hidden Colors 2. The production value on Hidden Colors 2 was much better than the production value on Hidden Colors 1. Because he did a good job on Hidden Colors 1, but obviously he upped the ante. I mean, he did exactly what a sequel is supposed to do. The first one was good. The second one knocks it out of the park. You can see that there was definitely an evolution in the production value and the production quality. And just that alone makes you want to see what he's going to bring you for Hidden Colors 3. It's like you can see this is a guy who brought you a good product the first time. It wasn't amateurish. And then came back the second time with one that even the parts that it may have been lacking in the first one, he hit all the cylinders in the second one. And that's what you're supposed to do. These guys on all these other videos, they got more than one video, but you don't see an evolution in quality. With Issa Rae's work, from the first episode of Awkward Black Girl to its season finale of season 1, you can see an evolution in the quality of the production value. That's what lets you know that this is a person who's really trying. The rest of you folks are not trying. There is no evolution in your work. You're not getting better. You're just putting out the same garbage scene after scene after scene because you are not honest with yourself. You don't think you need to do any better. You think your work is just fine just like it is, and that's why people are not watching it. So don't get offended at me for telling you that your work stinks. Because I'm nice. I'm the person who's doing you a favor. The audience giving you less than 1,000 views, brother, that's the most devastating thing that can happen to you. People are not criticizing your work. They're doing the worst thing they possibly can do. They're ignoring you. They're passing you up. At least if they were criticizing it, it means that maybe you were doing something that interested them. But they're not even interested enough to comment or to tell you that you're doing a bad job. And the fact that there were so few comments on these videos was proof to you all that people were just turning it on. You so offended their sensibilities that they immediately just switched to something else. And I guarantee you, if you show the videos, the YouTube statistics from those videos and the analytics showing the viewership, I guarantee you will see a spike at the beginning in the first 30 seconds, 60 seconds of each video, and you will see where it drops off in that next 30 seconds. By the end of that first minute, I guarantee you that all those YouTube analytics are under the basement. You lost your audience before you even got them. And that was not your audience's fault, and it's not Black society's fault. I am not going to sit up and promote a substandard product. I've put up links to Ask a Slave. I thought that was good work, good production value. I put up links to Across Many Rivers, or Many Rivers to Cross. I thought it was good production value. You guys' stuff, I'm mentioning you here. I'm not going to suggest that anybody go look at it, but if you all want to go look at it, I mean, hey, go knock yourselves out. You are more than welcome to do so. But just understand that these guys here don't have their act together, and they're surrounded by a bunch of sycophants and people who are not used to anything and don't have any standards, breaking their arms, patting them on the back because some of the visuals look okay. And some of the visuals look better than webcam quality. But these people are not going and seeing, wait a minute, how close to these other things am I getting? How close to the stuff I see on TV does my stuff look like that? Because I'm telling you, if your stuff does not look like that, you can forget about having an audience. Just forget about it. You are not ready for prime time. All right, let's talk about another issue here that has been a problem. I'm getting a bunch of people sending me stuff to my inbox. While I'm humbled and flattered that so many of you consider me to be an individual that you value my opinion and you want to run things by me, I'm only one person. I don't have a staff of people who can just sit and watch videos all day. That's not what my operation does. What I'm going to tell you all is that there are two tiers of you. Let's deal with that bottom tier first. You people who want to send me stuff about writing, okay? Listen, people, nobody's going to read your script. And let me just be honest with you about that. Anybody who's telling you that they are is lying to you. Nobody's going to read your script. You're going to have a very hard time getting me to read your script. Hey, TBA, can you read the first chapter of my novel? I don't know what you think it is I do during a day. I don't really have time during my day to be a proofreader. I don't really have time to be a copy editor. I can't do that. Sorry. Welcome to the real world. What I gave as a suggestion in my last video was what you need to do. If you don't trust your friends honestly enough to do that, or if you don't have enough people who can do that for you, I can understand sometimes that can be a problem. What you need to do in that instance then is you need to get yourself an artist. If you don't know one, there's plenty of them online, on Facebook and digital webbing and other websites like that. Get yourself an artist, and they don't even have to be a great one, okay? I mean, just go to YouTube and go look up Dead Space. They had some Dead Space motion comics that they did 4 or 5 years ago. Go look at those. The artwork was not fantastic, but the story was. The story was very good. And so even though they didn't have the best visuals, their story was very good. See, that's what a professional story does. A professional story can hold an audience even if the visuals aren't that great. So go take a look at things like that. And get yourself an artist and just put together a picture book like LeVar Burton, Reading Rainbow. Put together something that gives us some visuals. Go beyond just giving us a bunch of words. Anybody can put up a bunch of words. Come on, step your game up. Step your game up. Just get somebody who can do a little artwork for you, or do your own. There's 3D programs out there that you can get for free to do that. DAZ 3D, D-A-Z 3D. It has free models with it and stuff like that. Go and take a look at it. Or you can get a program like Poser or whatever. But my point is, you've got options. You need to start exercising them. And if you are refusing to do that, I don't feel sorry for you. You're trying to make a quick buck, which is what Negroes are prone to do. Instead of building a business, they try to build a hustle. And then can't figure out why their hustle can't make any money. Wake up and learn. Taking the easy way out is no longer an option in the 21st century. Because there is no easy way out. There are too many people out there who are willing to be thorough and are willing to do a good job and present the public with a professional quality product. So if you're trying to pitch something, I'm going to tell you that in the year 2014, if all you got is a typed script, you can forget about it. Even in Hollywood today, the reason that so many comic books are being licensed as movies is because this relieves the studios and the producers and the television networks from having to wonder whether or not this product is worth putting money behind, because they can actually see it. Now, in movies, whenever a movie is made, and this is going back 30, 40 years, they put together what are called storyboards. And the storyboards are just drawings. They're just drawings showing what the action is and what the camera angle is. And you'll have thousands of these little drawings for a whole movie. Storyboards are essentially a comic book that tells the directors and the actors exactly what we have mapped out and exactly what we'll be doing. That's what storyboards do. Now, you all are familiar with that term for cartoons, but they do this in all productions, TV, movies, and cartoons. Take a look at the movie 300. Zack Snyder pitched that to the studio as a type of motion comic based on Frank Miller's artwork. So he put together a motion comic, basically, and had one of his acting friends narrate it. And that was how the movie 300 began its process, going from a graphic novel to a movie. It was a graphic novel turned into a motion comic, and then Snyder was given enough money to put together the visuals of the pitch that he wanted to give to the movie studio, and then it was green-lighted to be turned into a movie. That's why comic books have such an easy time, because comic books are basically ready-made storyboards that tell the producers and tell the movie companies and tell the TV companies and TV channels and networks what they can expect from the end product. And this is why guys like Robert Kirkman and Marvel and DC and Mark Millar and all the rest of them have such an easy time pitching their ideas. You brought them a ready-made storyboard. You've already entered the realm of what they do in production. You've already entered that realm by handing them a storyboard. And what I'm telling all of you out there is stop putting together scripts. Nobody's going to read your script. Start putting together storyboards. You want to pitch an idea to the public? You want to stand out from the crowd? Show them that you're willing to take that extra step. Invest in an artist or do it yourself and put together storyboards. You can narrate them for yourself. You can just show the pictures of what the action is, and you can narrate it for yourself. You want to see how it's done? Go watch Reading Rainbow. It's just that easy. It really is. It's just that simple. Now, the other group of people here that I want to talk to are the people who are sending out videos. You need to be ready for prime time, guys. Let's just say it like it is. You need to be ready for prime time. And too many of you are completely and thoroughly unprepared. You are not watching the other products that are out there, because you need to understand that they're not just on a higher level. Those are your competitors. And if you're not doing at least as good as they are, you can forget about getting an audience. So the people handing me scripts, you're messing up because nobody's going to read your script. And the people sending me all these videos saying, here, look over this, look over this. First of all, your video shouldn't be more than a minute or two. If you can't get somebody's attention within 2 minutes, 20 minutes is not going to do it. If you can't get me intrigued enough in 2 minutes to click on your next video to watch for another 2 minutes, you don't have me. And that's the way it works in general. You've got 2 minutes to make the sale. And you need to make sure that 2 minutes does everything you want it to do. Because if you spend that 2 minutes flopping around and floundering around like a fish, understand you are killing your audience's retention and interest in what you're giving. These are decisions that you have to make for yourself. Now, you're grown men. You guys have absolutely no problem with learning the ins and outs of the music business because you think you're going to make a hit rap song in the neighborhood and that that's going to get you a quick buck. You're not trying to build a music business like Jay-Z did. You're just a bunch of lazy Negroes raised by hood rats in the housing projects. And you've got that hood rat in the housing project mentality that you're just going to put together some great scheme and you're going to be able to just hustle your way up and luck your way into making a bunch of money so that you don't have to work anymore. And I'm just telling you all that it's silly and stupid. Start being men, brothers. Start being men. Start learning about what you're doing here. Start putting together a product that is worth seeing. Start putting some work into learning everything 360 degrees about what you're supposed to be doing and about what it is you're putting together. That's what you all need to be doing. Now, I'm just one guy, and I do understand that some of you are saying to yourselves, hey, I'm just starting out. But you need to understand, fellas, there's rules to the road. There's rules to the road. And you're not doing that right now. You are not operating by the rules of the road. You are not saying to yourselves, you know what? Let me find out what's going on here. Let me learn about this craft that I'm looking into getting involved in. Let me put together the best production possible. And maybe I'm not ready just yet, because I need to get more equipment. Maybe I'm not ready just yet because this concept that I think is so great, this thing stinks. And I can't get people to even watch a storyboard of it. Why would I go off and go sink money into it? If I can't cultivate an audience to watch the audio and visuals of it at a low level, why would I pour tons of money into it for a high level? That's what you guys need to start doing. And if you can't close the deal in 2 minutes, you need to go back and take a look at whether or not you are really prepared and ready to start trying to write creative stuff to disseminate to the people. I want to leave you all with one last thing about writing and storytelling. One of the key things that you have to remember when you are writing a story is an element and a practice that is part of the institutionalized structure of pro wrestling. Yes, I said pro wrestling. In pro wrestling, they have a term. The whole goal in developing a talent, especially one that you're going to put on TV and merchandise and market, the number one goal of it is to get that person over. That's the term, is get them over. Getting somebody over with the audience, what that essentially means is that the audience identifies and lives vicariously through that performer. That the audience wants to be you and sees themselves as you. Now, some people are able to do this with their words. CM Punk, The Rock. Some people are able to do this with their screen presence. Macho Man Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan. Other guys are able to do this with their physical performance. Ultimate Warrior, Bill Goldberg, Booker T, Scott Steiner. But getting over with the audience means that you've been able to get the audience to identify and to desire to live vicariously through you. And as writers, you need to be doing the same thing. And the reason why the overwhelming majority of black writers are failures is because neither their story nor their dialogue gets over with the audience. You don't have us quoting passages from your work on Facebook or Twitter. You have no gems of wisdom to give us. One of the key examples that I often cite for people is from Game of Thrones, where Daenerys' lieutenant tells her that There's a beast inside every man, and he stirs when you put a sword in his hands. Now, you could have taken that sentence out of Game of Thrones and put it into pretty much virtually any movie, and it still would have been profound and prosaic, no matter where you placed it. When was the last time you heard a black writer come up with a statement like that? Not some long diatribe. I'm talking about to encapsulate a great thought in one sentence. That is the type of sentence and the type of statement that sets a character apart from others. It establishes his wisdom and his insight. That he understands what war does. And it doesn't matter what time period it's in. You could say the same thing today and we would all understand what that means. There's a beast inside every man, inside of every person. And that beast begins to gain power and gain confidence when you put a weapon in his hands. When you put a gun in somebody's hands, what does it do to them? See, you understand that statement, and that's the kind of statement where if you said that in real life, it sets you apart. And that's what you're supposed to do for your characters. Instead, what you all do is have your characters engage in a bunch of nonsensical exchanges that have absolutely nothing to do with anything, that do not push the story forward at all. Case in point, real talk time, brothers. CV Nation. I watched some of your stuff, okay? Let's point out a couple of problems. You had some chick in there, and for some strange reason, you wanted to put her in an outfit that showed off her breasts. I guess you all felt that you were pretty impressed by them. Okay, fine, we'll roll with that. To the side, your poor sound work on it. You had the scene where they're sitting in the restaurant talking to each other. This conversation is going absolutely nowhere. He's talking about her endoskeleton. Or she's talking about it. And then when he asks about it, she doesn't want to give out any information about it. Why did you bring it up? Do I care that it came from Hawaii? Do I care how it was done? Do I care that she's using makeup on it? You think you're making science fiction, and you're not. You're meandering. You're wandering. I walked in not knowing that she was not completely human. I walked out knowing that she was not completely human, and I didn't care. And when she got killed, I didn't care either. I didn't care about her. I didn't care about the guy she was talking to. You failed to tell a compelling story on any level. You failed. Even if your camera work wasn't so shoddy, even if the angles that you used weren't so monotonous, even if your sound work wasn't so poor, you have still failed to tell a convincing story. There was not one sentence or line of dialogue in their whole exchange that I wouldn't feel stupid repeating somewhere. It was worthless. And that's the kind of thing that I mean. Most black people do not have thoughts worth repeating. And to give you all just a little bit of clarification and insight into that, the guy who wrote Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin, he was raised in a housing project in New Jersey. See what the white guy got out of living in the housing projects. And see what the rest of his black friends who lived in the housing project came out with. Reality time for you. You're small-minded. And you don't even know how to engage in a decent conversation, which is why you cannot even replicate a decent conversation, even if you're holding the conversation with yourself. You can't even replicate one. Not one that anybody cares to hear. And yes, it needs to hurt your feelings for me to say this. Somebody needs to hurt your feelings. Your work is absolutely pusillanimous. Look it up. Now, they had another episode where they have some black female who is dressed in all purple, and she's supposed to be having all these mechanical implants in her, and she busts into this house, and apparently there's a telekinetic in there or something. He's a psychokinetic, can move things with his mind, and he pins her against the door. And he doesn't actually harm her. He starts getting nosebleeds, and then he just wants to know who sent her to come do him in. And she tells him, and he stops what he's doing. Not one line, what could have been something resembling a compelling scene. Not one line of interesting dialogue. You didn't develop your characters at all. You just have this confrontation between two people with no real point. Your story isn't going anywhere. And because the story is not going somewhere, your characters are not getting over with your audience. And since your characters aren't getting over with your audience, you don't have an audience. Kind of explains why your video only got 900 or 800 views in 2 years, huh? Not beating up on you. I'm just being brutally honest with you, since obviously nobody has cared to be, because they're actually passing this video around as if this is something great. Totally disregarding that this is a steaming pile of hot mess. The fact that it is cheap and low budget is not what kills it. The fact that your product could have $100 million behind it and people still wouldn't care. You could have the best Oscar award-winning cinematographer, lighting, and camera crew in Hollywood, and you could not turn that scene into something people would want to watch, no matter how much money you threw into it. That's what I mean by your production value stinks. Your storytelling skills stink. Your concept is no good. Even if it's a weak concept, you should have the skills as a writer to be able to put together dialogue and a script that makes people care about your characters, and you should be able to do that within a very short amount of time. It shouldn't take you 50 years to get us there, because if it takes you that long to get me to care about your character, forget about it. You need to start learning how to get your stories and your characters over with an audience. Otherwise, you're going to be sounding like Tyler Perry for the rest of your life. Now, that's nice and that's cute and all, but understand, as big as he is now, that's pretty much going to be the ceiling for him. And the reason is because he doesn't really write superior work. He writes adequate work for his black, female, lower, middle class, and underclass audience. He does not write stories that translate to the masses and that have characters that get over with the masses. No male or female out of his stories or movies is somebody that you're quoting lines from and finding wisdom in. You're not doing that. So my advice to those of you who want to call yourselves writers and say that you want to put together cinematic stories and whatnot, you need to view it the same way that they do in the wrestling business and on television. You need to be developing characters that get over with the audience, that say things that get over with the audience. You have to be able to put together dialogue that makes the audience say, "Wow, I wish I had said that." You need to be able to do that, and most of you can't do that. And even if you can't do it from a dialogue standpoint, you should be able to do it from a physical standpoint at least. I mean, if you're telling a fake story, a fictional story, then you don't even have to worry about real world athletics. You should be able to get your characters over because now they can physically do anything you want them to be able to do. The problem is most of you have them doing a bunch of junk that is not significant. They can have super strength, and they can be as fast or as fleeting or have all the superpowers you want, but it's meaningless because you've given them powers and no point to having them. And that's why your stories don't work. And that's why the exchanges and interchanges that they have with other people don't matter. The story isn't going anywhere. You've got a beginning and you have an end. You don't have a climax. You don't have a point. You don't have any friction between characters that means anything. And you're not telling a story that makes the audience want to live vicariously through the characters that you've created. And that's why you don't have an audience. So why don't you go work on that? Because understand something. We have Zane in the black community, if you want to call that type of pedantic sycophant a writer. But that chick owes nearly $500,000 in back taxes right now, for those of you who don't know. While she wants to take shots at me, I don't know how much money she's actually making. I do know that she owes almost $500,000 in back taxes. And if she doesn't find that money, she's going to be kicking it like Lauryn Hill here in just a minute. And that's real talk. That's real talk. So what I'm telling you is that if you think and you're telling yourself, well, I'll just compete on that Zane level and I'll be okay, understand it's hard to even get to that level. And a bunch of sophomoric, amateurish, Monday morning quarterbacking type of work is not going to stand out. It's not going to gain an audience, and it's not going to take you anywhere. So I hope that this commentary has helped clear a lot of things up for a lot of you. I hope it's helped clarify some things. I hope that you will stop going around embarrassing people who are putting out subpar work that was apparently very dazzling to you, though. And I hope that even those of you who are passing this stuff around, whether you are the actual creators of this work or whether you are, forbid, fans of it, that it will actually help assist you with raising your standards and raising the bar and actually expecting more from the work that you've been watching. You don't need $1 million budget, but just because you don't have $1 million budget is no excuse for not being able to put together $1 million script. And if you can't put together a script like that, you can forget about producing a product that's going to be worth anything. And if you can't produce a product that's going to be worth anything, you need to start asking yourself if you should even be doing this. And that's real talk.